Hey, hi. I'm running them today. I'm running them because in a couple weeks I'm going to be taking some time off. So I'm trying to get a lot done. And I'm actually having some fun with these. I do have, I recorded a lot of my memories and stuff. So these are like the major events. I just did the music one, but these are like the major events in history that I kind of remember kind of being around and hearing in the news and talking about with people. So that year was like the end of my freshman year, beginning of my sophomore year in college. Finally, United States is out of Vietnam, okay, and they signed what they called the Paris Peace Accords, okay. Oil prices start to go up because this organization called OPEC just decides they're going to just get in there, and it was all of them kind of come together like a conglomerate, and they raised the oil prices by 200%. Now mind you, the oil and gas prices the year before were really cheap, and we're going to go over the prices in a minute. Okay, there is a horse called Secretariat. Now, this was a big deal because my mom worked at the Daily Racing Form, so I'd hear about horses and I understood about racing and mutters and all. I understood a lot of things, just trivial stuff that you just know because you hear it. Okay, the Secretariat becomes the first horse since citation from 1948 to win the Triple Crown. Big, huge deal if you love horses. And it's not even about money. I guess people made money on the race or whatever, but it was a big deal. Okay, our Alaska oil pipeline bill passed to allow construction of the pipeline from the North Slope of Alaska. Okay, guys, look up the controversies that have happened since then with the pipeline. I have no opinion. I just think it's really interesting that 50 years later, they're still talking about this pipeline. All right, enough on that. Big one. Breaking news. The Supreme Court changes the laws, the constitutional right in Roe versus Wade to now have an abortion is legal. Okay, there's so much to be said on this. This would be like videos and books and everything else, but that's the year that it happened. And it looked like it was just going to be something to give women freedom, and there was going to be no ramifications from it. That's what it looked like. It looked like, yay, this is great. And then later on we learn more and more and more and more. So that's all I have to say about that. I have nothing else to say. You guys make up your mind for yourself where that's your deal. I just know that's the year it started. Okay. Let's see. In Australia, the Sydney Opera House, it opened up that year. This beautiful photo op, I guess, and all the lovely music that's been played there ever since. That was the first year. Okay, they're still fighting in Israel. Then they had the Yom Kippur War and an oil embargo, and like Israel's always in the news about having wars and everything. And I get it. The history is centuries old. There's tons of stuff you have to learn before you believe even me or anything else. Go and research the history, and don't just research it from one source. Otherwise, if you don't know what you're talking about, my mom used to say, don't talk. And I'm like, God, that would be a great rule for everybody, including me. So I'm not going to share any more about that. But that's the year they had this big thing happen. A lot goes on. Okay, so we get out of Vietnam. We have the Paris Peace Accords. North Vietnam, South Vietnam, Viet Cong, and the United States were all there. Okay. And we were supposed to get out within 60 days. Now, if any of you watched any of the newsreels, and I remember this because I had a friend in high school when I was in New Egypt, and her older brother was there, and I wrote to him, I think his name was Ralph, and he was actually a guard at the embassy. When you see these pictures where people are beating on the doors of our embassy and helicopters are taking people and leaving our embassy, okay, in Vietnam. It was a crazy house that day. And I only remember it because I was thinking maybe Ralph was there. He could have been. I don't know. It just was one of those things you just didn't know. But I was particularly invested because of my friend. And her name was Vicky, I think. Not best friends, but just somebody you hang with, sit on the school bus with, da-da-da. All right, so let's see what else is going on. Okay, I talked about, the film, and I actually saw this film with my sister-in-law Mary. It's called the American Graffiti. Famous movie. Okay, Richard Dreyfuss, Ron Howard, Cindy Williams, Candy Clark. I mean, there's just tons of people. Great movie, real epic movie about the 50s. Just cool. And Harrison Ford, too. All right, so good movie came out that year. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, so let's talk about the average cost of a new home. Oh, it went up a little bit. It's $32,000 now. Average monthly rent on an apartment, check it out, $175. Cost of a gallon of gas before the OPEC deal was 40 cents. And next year, if I get to that, I will talk about that, how that happened. There was a car called a Javelin. It was the same company that made the Gremlin, and it was $2,900. A dozen eggs, 45 cents. This is fun. Big deal. Crock pots were coming out. The crock pot cooker went for retail $17. Oh my gosh. Excuse me. Let's see. Men wore paisley slacks, and they were the high fashion, so they were $23 a pair. So, a lake cottage, 400-foot lot on a White River 2-bedroom cottage and boathouse in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, 28 grand. It'd probably be $500,000 now. Okay, so Wounded Knee in South Dakota during February. There was civil rights organizations and, began the occupation of where Wounded Knee happened. Okay, so everybody knows the story, but it became a pivot point. And so they all met where Wounded Knee happened, and they started kind of trying to change things. And I'm glad they spoke up for themselves. I'm not saying they got a lot done, but at least it got on the map. Okay, so at the time, Nixon's still president, and if anybody remembers this, God bless you, but I didn't until I looked at the nose. It was like the vice president was Spiro Agnew, and that month, he had to resign. Now you got the guy involved in Watergate scandal, the president. Now you got his vice presidents resigning. Hello, they ain't got nothing on these 3 years going by. I'm just saying. Sears Tower's completed. Okay, so I used to love tennis, like in the later years of my marriage. I started really loving tennis, and I followed it and took lessons and everything else. But this year, famous thing happened. Billie Jean King, woo-yah! She played against Bobby Riggs, okay? And it was actually called the Battle of the Sexes. Now you're not allowed to say which are, so I wonder how they would build that now. Anyway, pretty cool stuff. And, yeah, it was in Houston. Sorry. Let's see. They're still fighting in Ireland. We have the Mariner spacecraft going up. No, it's a big deal. Remember in grammar school, everybody every week was all about the space stuff. Now you got the Mariner is being taken off, and it's going to the planet Mercury. Big deal. Now nobody gives a crap. They can turn it on YouTube, but they turn it off. They don't care. They don't care what's going on. Okay. Now you're starting to see some stuff going on with unions are starting to they used to be the heyday in the 60s. That was it. You wanted to work in a company that had a union because then you had more bennies. Now they're starting to lose their power. And Chrysler decides that they're going to close a number of plants and laid off 100,000 people. And that may not feel like a lot now, but it was like everybody back then. Of course, we're out of Vietnam. And the World Trade Center, hello, this is the year it became the tallest building in the world. I saw it go up, and I saw it come down. There's something to be said about maturity. Old. Okay, so popular films. All right, we talked about this in another video. The Exorcist, Live and Let Die, Paper Moon, let's see, popular TV programs, The Partridge Family, Odd Couple, Columbo, the little detective guy, Masterpiece Theater, MASH, Sanford and Son, I'm coming to you, Wheezy, I'm coming. Bob Newhart, The Price is Right, and the Waltons. See, that was part of the society that wanted to go back to the mountains, go back to natural living, and they had a great following. Okay, so I just looked up who was born that year that kind of jumped out at me, and a famous tennis player that came after Billie Jean King that kicked her butt. Okay, no wait, did they play? I think Monica Seles was born that year. And that's pretty much what happened. There was, of course, earthquakes and floods and all those famous things. But those are the things that I remember from the year. And look, I've been doing my homework for you guys. Because I don't want to get out in here and just talk. Because my memory's not great. So anyway, another 10-minute one. But this is good stuff. I'm having so much fun. I hope you're liking them. Let me know. Hey, please comment. Okay, because I get extra brownie points with the algorithm if you say something.